Welcome to 2026. In this can't miss episode, Nathan and I look back to 2025 at the goals we set, which ones we hit on, which ones we missed on, but more importantly, what lessons we learned. Then we look forward to 2026. Where do we think we're going to be investing? Where do we see the market a little bit? And what expectations do we think we're going to be thinking differently in a year from now? Lastly, we talk about our show. First, we discuss what guests we're going to be bringing on. Where's the focus going to be around? Then we talk about what our big time goal is by the end of 2026. So we want to hear from you. What were your goals in 2025? What are your goals for 2026? And what lessons have you learned? Drop them below. Welcome back to another Real Estate Note Show. I'm your host, Dave Putz. Alongside me, as always, Nathan Turner. How are you?
Doing really well.
Welcome to 2026, dude.
I know. Can't believe it. Here we are.
Well, hopefully the weather gets a little better quicker because I'm getting tired of this cold weather. That's for sure. I know you like it. The skiing weather's probably gorgeous, but it's tough.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Early snow up in the Rockies, and so that's been really good. So I got a bunch of trips in before Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year. So it's been a good run so far. We'll see.
So it's amazing. We've had a really great 2025. The show has been awesome. We've gotten so much feedback. And I feel like everyone's quiet about it because I get emails like, your show is great, the stuff's good, but no one publicly talks about it, which I'm okay with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just reach out and say hello once in a while. Don't be strangers to everyone.
For sure. It's really fun when we go somewhere and then people are like, oh, hey, I watch your show. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Good to hear.
At least somebody does. Watch it. Yeah. So guys, feel free to give out feedback, give us suggestions, ideas, thoughts. We YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're going to be at. It always helps us to know. We've spent a lot of time in the last month or so talking about predictions for 2026, and we'll get in a little bit here, but I don't think that's where we want to really focus it on. Is we want to kind of just see 2025 where our goals were, what things shifted, and then what are we doing for 2026 that will kind of make it worth it, right? Where do we want to go? Yeah. Where do we see ourselves ending up? Because where we started in 2025 didn't end up where we were. And we're saying before we started, I missed out on some stuff that I wish I started doing. So,
yeah, me too. Looking back and seeing what we talked about last year, and it's like, oh well, we decided not to do that one, and we'll get into some of that. But things change, and I think that's okay. But it's interesting to go back and look at some of these things. And I've got my goals up on my wall, and so it's not something that I only look at once and then forget about it. It's up there, and it's something that I'm reviewing. But there's a couple more here that we talked about last year that I didn't have written up there.
It's amazing because people sometimes don't have goals at all, and I get confused by that because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know what to do or how you're doing it? Are you just flying by the seat of your pants? And some people argue that goals aren't worth it because what happens if you change? That's okay.
That's okay, but you need a direction. So if you go back to Alice in Wonderland, there's the Cheshire Cat. Alice is saying, which way should I go? And he says, well, where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to end up? And she says, well, I don't know. Then it doesn't matter. So you need some kind of sense of direction so that you can pick the path and then go there. And things can change along the way, and that's fine. But you need some kind of direction to get going.
Absolutely. So it's amazing that we don't realize that in life, that we need to have direction. Because everything else, we're going on a trip. We know the direction. We know where we want to end up. We figure out how to get there. Doesn't mean we have to end up there, just where we want to go. And with that said, let's look back for a moment in 2025, where thought we were going to go and where we kind of shifted gears and where we did end up. So I'll start with you right now. DME, you pushed a lot to get DME increased.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I got more out of 2025 than I did in the past years.
It was really interesting. It ended up being a great show and, awesome content and lots of great things, but the attendance was lower. And that was the thing that I was kind of focused on. We're always looking to make it a great conference, but the attendance was lower. Yeah. Now, here's one of those interesting things. So, I put a lot of time and energy and social media blasts and all those things to try to get people to come. And we had less people come than we did the year before. What I found out is that was pretty much industry wide. All conferences for 2025, especially that first half of 2025, all of them, attendance was lower. And in fact, some even canceled because they didn't have enough attendance, or they decided they didn't have enough attendance. So external factors can sometimes, create bumps and jumps, and that's just how it goes. And
Yeah.
you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm really happy with the conference that we had. I agree. I thought that the content was absolutely fantastic. We ended up, the people that did come,
Oh,
there was a higher concentration of people who are more experienced in the business, and so that ended up having some different kinds of conversations than we've been able to have in the past, just because of who's there. So all in all, it was great. I was really
yeah.
glad that we had such a great show, but it was interesting. Like
Yeah.
the goal was to have a certain number of attendants. Didn't meet that, but it ended up being a great conference anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, for me, one of my first goals that we took notice was that I was trying to create DCR loans, DSCR loans, which is basically a debt service credit loan. And
Yeah,
that's for landlords who have equity in their property and to give them a second lien and pull equity out. That
yeah,
don't want to go through banks and the rigmarole with it and the underwriting requirements. And I was able to create two. I didn't hit my third, but my goal was hit two or three, and I did create two, and I really like doing them because I work with investors. I understand that space, and I'm able to create great returns for those who have a huge increase in equity and
hmm,
are untapped and they want to do more with it. So I was able to fund a ton of capital into these kind of people, and that's going to be
good.
part of my 2026 goals. But that was the first thing. It really worked for me. My first goal was a home run, and I got to where I wanted to get to. Um,
That's
I
great.
wanted 3 to 5. I didn't get my third, but I got two, and I deployed a lot in those two, which was ideal. Um, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. And sometimes it's not necessarily like, you say, I want to buy, we had that goal a long time ago, 100 notes. And so that was what we were working towards. We got there, but then kind of realized, you know what? I would rather have fewer notes with higher dollars in them,
Yes.
just because there's less work involved. And
Yeah.
so that, again, you learn as you go and you adjust and recalculate and keep going.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the next thing I see, we were focusing on diversification in DME. We just talked about that a minute ago, and
Yeah.
you did have that. You brought people in there that have never been to a conference before, who are
Yeah.
followers of our show, who create notes, who have nowhere to go and came to learn. And I expect that to happen again this year in May for people to be joining in. Now, if you haven't bought your
Yeah.
tickets, go get your tickets and start scheduling your airline tickets. I've actually got all my stuff done. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll be there in
Yeah.
May. But diversification at DME is something you can't control, but is a goal to have it. And I think that
Yeah.
is was great last year.
Yeah,
Um,
I really think that we achieved that where we had that. We had people that were coming from different sides of the note business. We had guys talking about tax liens and things. We don't normally think of that as note investing. It
yeah,
really is. It was just a different
absolutely.
angle to take. So it's great to have those different kind of people coming in and having those different kinds of conversations. So again, great success. I was really happy with that. And
Yep,
yeah, we've got some awesome stuff planned for 2026. So stay tuned. We'll talk about more
absolutely.
as we go.
Yeah. I did buy a few notes. I'm going to say guess about 10 or 12. I don't know exactly. I would have to look. I didn't buy as much as I ever have before. It was a
Yeah.
lower year. It just the inventory wasn't what I wanted to be at, and the yield, I'd rather hold on some of my money. So I didn't hit the
Hmm.
goal I had for that. But I did talk about writing 5 short-term notes, interest only, hard money lending. Man, I wish I did that. I mean, hard
Yeah.
money lending was huge opportunity last year. You're getting 2, 3 points, and charging 12 to 15. It just didn't do that for whatever reason. It didn't, but
Hmm.
I got it right.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Did you miss a goal or wish you got a, that you wanted to get to and you just didn't get to it?
Um, yeah, we had, we were hoping to fill up the rest of the fund with the $5 million we're looking for. We didn't get there. One of the goals that I had for last year was to bring on a dedicated capital raiser. We actually did. We had somebody that was working for us for about a month and a half, and then he decided he got a better offer and took off. And you know what? Whatever, it's
Yeah.
fine, and no hard feelings or anything. It's just this other opportunity looked better to him, and that's fine. So with that, then it falls back on my shoulders. I did look for somebody else for a time. I'm still open to that, but but I think part of me realizes that, nobody's going to do it the same way that I can do it. And I don't, it's a fine line because I don't want to be, thinking that I'm the only one that can do anything and therefore I got to do it all.
Yeah,
That's not right either. But I think in this case, investors need to know who I am. They're investing in me. They're investing in what I'm doing. And so
sure.
there's a lot of, responsibility that does fall back on my shoulders, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. One of the things you saw was trip with your son. Were you able to get that done, or is that a piggyback for next year or
That's going
2026?
to be piggybacked. We were actually just talking about that the other day, and going to some of the other hills around the Banff area that we haven't been to yet. We're at our hill and not all the runs were open, and we're like, this is fun. But I
Yeah,
know I've been to those other hills, and they're a lot more terrain. There's a lot more going on, so I will do that this year.
yeah.
I'm pretty confident.
It's great to hear that because we should have some fun personal stuff that goes along too, and
Yeah,
spending time with family and and friends locally is crucial. We try to get together as a group of friends of ours on a regular basis, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But
yeah,
we had to make it happen. Spending time with our
yeah,
kids and doing stuff like that is crucial, right? As they're young and
yeah.
still around, it's
So,
really cool.
did you have any other personal goals that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I was trying to. You brought up this too. Bring your children into your business, and my
Yeah,
kids are a little bit younger. They're only 12 and 14, so they're just not there yet. I'm
yeah,
going to keep pushing it as gently as I can to encourage them, and my oldest has started shifting, turning the corner a little bit. It was a
yeah,
great conversation over winter break about some things that he's doing that are similar to what I'm doing, but for his world, which was idea for me just to get that started. So, yeah, I can see my
yeah.
personal relationship with my son growing as
That's
I
good.
bring that connection with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I had two personal ones that I was able to achieve. I'm pretty proud of that. One, I decided at the beginning of 2025 I wanted to do 10,000 push-ups in the year. And so well, I broke it down, and that's 50 push-ups 4 times a week. And yeah, sure enough, December 31st did my last 50 push-ups and
Nice.
got her done. So
Congratulations.
feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
And then there's one mountain in Banff that I had attempted to climb years and years ago, 20 years ago, almost 30 years ago. And it got the best of us at that time. Weather moved in. So this summer, my son and I went and scaled that. And that's the hardest hike I have ever done. I've never
Wow.
been so tempted to quit, but I was with my son and I'm
And you
like, what am I
spent
teaching
yeah,
if we quit?
yeah.
So
Had the best motivation
we
possible.
powered through. It rained, it hailed, it snowed. Like it was, and this was end of June, and we got all the weather and everything else, but we powered through. We got up to the top. Thank heavens, I'm never doing that one again.
Yeah.
But now my son can say the same thing, and it's very prominent. Anytime you go into Banff, it's Mount Rundle. It's right there. You can't miss
Got it.
it, and so it's fun to go back and be like, I climbed that one.
Nice. Well, 2026 is upon us. For the show, we're going to be gearing to bring on more guests, more pristine guests, as well as beginners. We're going to mix it up a little bit, not just have the
Yeah,
experts on. We want to show that beginners also have a great voice to speak on. So we're going to have some new investors come on the show and share the journey they've gone through, as
yeah.
well as the experience, right? Both note creators, note buyers, and real estate professionals who are in the space to share their stories, how they got to where they're at, no matter what level they're in, because we
Mhm.
all can learn valuable lessons from every one of these people.
Yeah, there's something to learn from everybody. And yeah, like you say, the newbies that come in, they've got a different perspective oftentimes. And with their background and their history and their, the experience that they're bringing,
Absolutely.
oftentimes they'll say, well, why don't you do it this way? Or what about this? And at the very least, it gets us to start thinking about it and be like, why don't I do it that way? And if we don't for a reason, that's
Yep.
fine. But at the very least, it gets you to start thinking about it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there. And then the next thing we want to do is bring big people on there that you guys are making offers on. We have a
Yeah.
few outreaches, some wild guests that are a little bit above where we think we're at, and we're hoping we are bringing them in. And I have confidence we will. So that's one of the goals we have is
Yeah.
to reach out to people out there that are more pristine, more higher level, that we can bring them into this world and talk to us, and some authors and some books that we have reached out to, which would be really cool. We
Yeah.
have a bunch of shows already booked up. I think we're into March already, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Where we have the great stuff. We're always looking for feedback too. So
If there's people out there that are interested,
yes,
drop us a line. We'd
reach
love to
out.
talk to you and see, let's see if it's a good match and see if it's a good fit, and
Absolutely.
we'll figure
Let's
it out.
yeah. The 2026. We're
Yeah.
now thinking about what we want to do. Our goals for 2026. We're going to stay with the idea if you're building goals, what was your mantra at DME to make sure goals are goals and not wishes or
Yeah.
dreams?
Yeah. Smart goals. So specific, measurable, actionable. Uh, R can be a couple of different ones, relative, like it actually makes sense, and then timely. So make sure that it's something that you can actually do something about.
Yep.
I've been part of meetings and things where they're making goals where that sounds really nice, but it has nothing to do with anything that I can do anything about. And
Yes.
so that's a wish. That would be awesome if that happened. But if you can't do anything about it, then
Winning the
it's
lottery is
really
not a
not a
dream. It's
goal.
not a goal,
Yeah,
right? It's a
exactly.
wish, right?
Exactly.
Losing weight, that's a wish. It's not a goal because it's not
Right.
measurable, right?
Right.
So I think one of the big things we want to work on in the business side of things right now is where do we want to be at December 31st, 2026? What do we want to
Yeah.
accomplish, right?
Yeah.
And one
Yeah.
of my first goals I mentioned is I want to do more of these debt service limits where I'm lending money to landlords. So if there's a landlord listening, feel free to reach out and we will give you money for your equity in your property and put a second lien on your property, which is wonderful, and create that
Yeah.
note. Long as you have enough rental money coming in to cover it, let's do it, right? So that's one thing. I'm looking to fund between 250 and 500,000 in that area of stuff, maybe some more. But it
Yeah.
just depends.
That sounds great. That sounds really interesting. I honestly, I hadn't really thought of doing that before. I, of course, I'm familiar with it, but I hadn't really thought of doing that. I'd be open to doing something
Yeah.
like that. So I'll give that some more thought,
Yeah.
see how I
If their
want to
first
make that
lien's
play.
45 or 50% because the value doubled in the last 5 years, and
Sure.
probably worth $500,000 now, they owe 250, and they want to
Yeah.
borrow 100 grand. Why not?
To do whatever they want to do with
Yep.
it.
And the
Sure.
rentals are going great, and they have enough rental
Yeah.
income to pay the bill. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that sounds like a good one. I like that.
what was your first goal that you have that's measurable and predictable and something you can control?
I want to raise the rest of the capital remaining for my fund. It's a little over 4 million, but I want to get that done. And then I want to deploy at least 3 million of that into performing loans. So earmarked that remaining 2 million for things like DSCR loans or lending out for different reasons or things like that. So I'm open, kind of keeping that as sort of flex. Um, but I want to, yeah, deploy at least 3 million of that into some performing loans, long term, short term, and just start turning it over, seeing what we can do with it.
Absolutely. So, raising capital is something I don't really do a lot. I have private capital, I have private equity, and I could tap probably 10, 15 million if I needed to. But
Hmm.
we talked beforehand, we're not looking to get 1,000 loans or 100
No.
notes. Really want to make sure our quality is good. And right now, capital is really, really strong and
Yeah.
things are kind of weak. Holding money back is not a bad thing, guys. If you're looking to buy, don't just buy to buy because things could change in the economy. So,
Yeah.
most investors we talk to privately are holding capital in their bank and hold on to it because they don't want to deploy it because they're just waiting
Right.
for things to change. So,
Yeah. And for me, it's still a yield play.
yep,
That being said, we've had some conversations lately with some folks where it's not completely about yield. Yield
yes,
is my number one goal. That's the thing that I'm after. However, there's got to be some equity in there. There's got to be some protection in case
yes,
of, and so that's an important part of that. And
yep,
I'm sure we're going to get into that over and over again this year about
yes,
creating good notes and making sure you're doing it properly. Because
yep.
this group we were talking to, oh man,
Oh,
they're in
yeah,
trouble.
yeah, yeah. So, guys, if you're creating rap notes and doing sub two raps, just be careful what you do. There are education programs out there that'll tell you to do this and this and this. Just think logically. If worst case scenario comes up, how would you handle it? What would you
Hmm.
do? It was such a good lesson to learn. Of
Yeah.
I wish I could help, but it gets
Yeah.
really frustrating and upset. that we can
Yeah.
help, but there's situations that just doesn't make sense for us to help at all. And
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to it when we just don't have an answer.
Yeah, it's tough. I was approached by somebody else to do a note appraisal and they were using it for their IRA. And so great. And I'm happy to help doing that. The way that this note was written, just the terms of it, it actually in the end, it actually kind of helped what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to devalue the note as much as possible for tax reasons, but so good job there. But
Yeah.
honestly, it was not a marketable note at all. I don't
Wow.
think anyone would pay anything for that. But I had to
Okay.
come up with some numbers, and so we threw some numbers in there and made it make as much sense as we can. But
Absolutely.
just witnessing that, and I said, "So who created this note for you?" And oh, it's the title company. Okay, but no, there's a right way
Wow.
to do it, and so make sure that you're talking to people who are in the business. Even if you don't have the intention of reselling it anytime, talk to somebody who is a buyer of notes so that they can say like, look, if for whatever reason, 5 years down the road, there's something comes up and you need to sell this note off, here's how to do this properly today so that if and when the
Absolutely.
time comes, you have a marketable note.
Makes sense. That makes sense. So my next goal, and anyone watches the show or listen to me, I'm a big AI guy, right? I love AI. I spend a lot of time in AI. I create a lot of tools. I've done coding for my business to reduce risk, reduce error, and increase productivity. I've done a lot with AI automations, tools, web apps like that. I'm looking to do more of that for other investors, not only to bring value to them, but to learn more about their space. So
Mhm.
I'm creating some internal stuff for some people in our private call of helping them out with their where their hurdles are or time gaps, and I want to do more of that. Automation tools for people. It is a great way to learn a new space and to help out. So I'm looking
Yeah.
to create 2 or 3 different products and services for people that are around the note space to make their situation a lot easier, a lot smoother, and re- bring back some time back in their pocket.
That's great. I love
Yeah.
that.
So,
Yeah,
what's your
that's
next
really
goal
cool.
you have?
We're talking back about DME. I'd like to increase the attendance. I'm still looking for that 300 number just because the attendance is the attendance. It really doesn't matter. What I'm trying to do is create a space where people can come. There's enough people where you can get together and talk. I want people to meet people so that they can go out and do deals. That's my whole idea. That's the
Yep.
whole premise to DME for me, is to get people to get together so they can start working together, doing deals, doing some business together. That's my ultimate goal.
I have a
So I'd like to increase the attendance so that there's kind of like a critical mass there where people can get
I'd
together and
like to
start talking.
see for DME a 50% increase of those who are creating notes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of the ways. That's probably the major way that I'm looking to increase
Yep.
the attendance is getting the seller finance group out there. Anybody who's in seller finance could because they don't know. They're creating notes. They've been taught this and that. Come and meet us. This is the other side of that business, and we can work together. Man, we can do a ton of business together. So come and meet us, and we'll figure out how we can put all these tools together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you'd be surprised. We've had a couple of our private callers jump in and get part of DME, and they're shocked because they just didn't know so much
Yeah,
of the other side, even though they
yeah,
knew a lot about their own side. Right.
right, right.
Um,
Yeah, there's lots to know.
my third goal is a little bit personal to me, right? Of
Yeah,
finally getting my book that I've written out there for those who are, and I'm able to start publicly talking a little more about this. Is those who are creating notes or buying notes, there are proper things that we've talked about in the show, and I compass it all together so that you guys know exactly what makes a note legal, why you should do something, when you should do it, why different states matters, why does
hmm
Texas matter from New Jersey or Ohio? Time frames, what goes into it, what makes a note, what goes into the mortgage or deed of trust.
hmm
Why is it? What's an assignment? What's a launch? Just the whole compass of why a note is a note. But then all talking about if you're going to create a note, here are some things to make it valuable, and
hmm
here are some ways of doing it. And here's why a note investor thinks this way, and whatnot. I
Yeah.
like, and the bigger thing is, and I don't understand that most note creators are not looking to exit their notes. That's fine. Some are,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
don't remove the possibility of exits because you don't ever know if you want to recapitalize, sell, or even you want to sell partial or get some extra capital because your money's now tied up and you have a better deal over here and you're
Yeah.
now strapped because you can't do anything about it. And then I
Yeah.
want to take that a step farther and I want to create about 50 more seller finance people that I've directly impact with this book that I'm now buying consistently from them. Buy a new
That's cool.
method, new cool tools, and just allow them to create it so the me and my and our followers can be buying from these people on a consistent basis and their
Yeah.
capital being replenished over and over and over. We're doing that. I'm doing that now with some of our private members, but I want to make this more public that people are doing it. But you can't create notes in certain ways and expect or be surprised. I guess you can be, but you don't want to be surprised that, hey, why won't anyone buy this? Why is the discount so low? Why would you not buy it at all? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand. And I want to remove that facet and create a system that you guys make money, we make money, and that
Hmm.
relationship grows over the years.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's good. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to reading that book. That's gonna be good.
Yeah. So it'll be out
Very
soon.
good. Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
back to notes though, right? Our
Yeah.
goal is this here to buy notes. We want to
Yeah.
buy, we'll create notes, but buying them. I would love to deploy. You said 3 million. I'd love to deploy $2 or $3 million as well into buying notes,
Hmm.
right? But I'm not going to reach for things. We have a goal set, and comes back to goals. Our goal is to deploy $2 or $3 million. But if the yield is giving
Yeah.
you 8, we're not going to stretch and give it 8, right? We're not going to buy an 8
Right.
yield, but
Right.
we're going to work our angles. This space is huge on networking. You'll be surprised of who we've connected with in a private circle because of the networking we've done. We're able to
Hmm.
do deals, find deals, or information that we would never have come across if we didn't connect with some of these other experienced people.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so much about networking. That note that I appraised, it was a referral of a referral. You know what I mean? Like it said,
Yes.
"Oh, why don't you call Nathan and give him a call and see what we can do." So it's all about who you know and getting around, and just that network is just incredibly important. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good. That's gonna be a good book. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we're gonna end this show with the idea of what we expect from this show by end of the year. Not what the real estate
Yeah.
space is, right? I think we've talked about that a lot in the last couple episodes. If you haven't catched it, definitely take a look at the last couple ones. We've had Melody Wright on here. We had Deep Polio on talking about it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
What are your expectations from this show? What do you expect by 2027, January, right? We've
Hmm.
done it for 2026. Where do you think this show will be for those who are following it and things like that? What do you see from it?
I want to expand the reach,
Mm,
and specifically get in front of those seller finance folks because there's so much opportunity there, and I know that that's a from what I've
yes.
learned about the seller finance kind of group is there's not really a group. There's, they'll follow kind of like a teacher and they'll learn stuff from that person, and then they just kind of go off and do their own thing, which is very not the way we do things with notes. So we come together, and the more we come together, the more we're able to do deals. But for some reason, that's kind of the culture, I guess, of the seller finance people is they don't
Mingle.
really connect with each other and mingle. And so that's what I'm hoping to do is that this would be kind of a gathering place for them
Yes.
so that they can come to understand who we are. We can help them get together with other seller finance people so that they can get together and do some deals together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you.
And
I
not
think,
very measurable, but that's kind of what
yeah.
I'm
So
the
from
vision of it.
I see us doing at least 2 shows a month or so, predicting that kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. I think I agree with you. We're gonna bring more people on that will fit that seller finance world. No buyers, we're not leaving you behind. We're
No.
reaching into a brand new area that's constantly growing, constantly expanding. And you're
Yeah.
right. These people are following Joe Smo or this person, that person, and they're not following each other and they kind of go down a lane. Um,
Yeah.
and what I'm really hoping from this show is that we open those lanes up, not for only them to communicate with us, but for us to break into all these little subgroups and do a talk, do a speech,
Yeah.
allowing this platform to reach into those groups where we get the invitation. Hey guys, you come talk in our groups. Believe me, it's already happened. I've done it before, Nathan as well, right? We
Yeah.
get the invitation, but we want to do it more. I'd love to do it. I'm going to go crazier once a month in a different group every month. That would be a great goal. We
Oh,
do
that'd be awesome.
12 of this, right? We're breaking
Hmm.
into different sectors and we explain
Yeah.
to them what makes a note legal. Why is it valuable? Why is it not valuable? And all spiel and stuff, and be asked questions to help them become better business people and to
Hmm.
prevent them from being in situations that we knew some people locally recently got into,
Yeah.
and to prevent that, because when you do things that just don't work out, it's not easy to get out of a mess that it just doesn't make sense, right? So we
Yeah.
want to get into that. That's my end of the year. I have 12 different new pockets of people who follow us from different groups who are doing creative, seller, owner financing, wrap notes, all that stuff. And that group now comes here and then reaches
Yeah.
out to our other note investors who are friends of ours and followers and tribe members and says, hey, can you buy our notes? Can you buy your
Right.
notes? And can you buy our notes? And
Yeah.
again, we talk about this in the show. Our yields are X. You could be lower because you're an individual person who maybe
Hmm.
you don't need a great returner. And these
Right.
opportunities are all over the place, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's an ever-growing space.
Yes.
There's room for everyone, and we've known that for the last 15 years is just how friendly this space is.
Yes.
And we come together, everyone shares everything. There's very
Yeah.
little that's, not shareable information, if
Yeah.
any.
Yeah.
And we love to just talk and
Yeah.
help each other out. And so,
Yep.
yeah, looking
Absolutely.
forward to that. That's gonna be great.
That works out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our beginning first show of 2026. We'll be coming back. We'll have Jay on coming our next show. He's one of the biggest people in Bigger Pockets. So stay tuned for
Mhm.
that episode. That'll be coming up in the next 2 weeks or so. And other than that, yeah, anyway, hope you had a great 2025 and best of luck to 2026. And we'll see everyone real soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.